welcome back to a chapter a day. Happy Wednesday, middle of the week. Yeah, we are halfway there. So if you're feeling like, yo, man, I can't do this, you're halfway there. It means you can do it. So as you've done it halfway before. So let's keep trudging on. And I pray the best of God's blessings. God's blessings aren't ever a bad thing either. So once God blesses you, and sometimes we get blessings that seem like disguise the bad things. Well, I think time will help us to understand that. But today's Wednesday and I'm reading chapter 19. And I think I can throw in chapter 20. I'm not quite sure, but we'll see. Okay, so let's get started. And I'm thinking of a way to change up. I know after Proverbs, I should have been finished with Proverbs to during the month of January, at the end of January, because there are 31, and had I just gone through and done it, it would have been finished. But I didn't do that, so no excuses for me. But for Ecclesiastes and Song of Solomon, there are two books that I really have a hard time just sitting and reading through, because to me they just don't have any inspirational, but not so much Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes honestly can be Proverbs. I don't even know why they have Ecclesiastes separate from Proverbs, because it's about the same set of, it's the same, within the same context of giving you advice of, you know, just wise sayings is what I would say. But I don't know. It's just a continuation of Proverbs. And then Song of Solomon. I know people say that, you know, they kind of related to Christ's love for us. But truth be told, this is really like reading Shakespeare's poetry to me. And I really don't feel very inspired when I read this stuff. So I'm going to find a way to see how I can put the two together maybe, and not have to sit and read it like regular. They're not long books, thank God, but we'll see. But for now, let's deal with what we have. Chapter 19 of Proverbs. Better is the poor that walketh in his integrity than he that is perverse in his lips and is a fool. Also that the soul be without knowledge, it is not good. And he that hasteth with his feet sinneth. And I'll tell you two things that Proverbs has addressed from beginning all the way through till now is wisdom, or our wisdom, and foolishness. Yeah, the contrast. They've compared and contrasted, and we have, I mean, in our own lives, wisdom is to be gotten, foolishness is to be gotten rid of. Okay, so this is what seems to be the most widely presented themes: wisdom and foolishness. Okay, verse 2. Also that the soul be without knowledge, it is not good. And he that hasteth with his feet sinneth. Okay, verse 3. The foolishness of man perverteth his way, and his heart fretteth against the Lord. Wealth maketh many friends. We know that, yeah? But the poor is separated from his neighbor. And I think some of these verses are being repeated because I remember some of them I have read before in other chapters. Verse 5. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall not escape. Many will entreat the favor of the prince, and every man is a friend to him that giveth gifts. All the brethren of the poor do hate him. How much more do his friends go far from him? He pursueth them with words, yet they are wanting to him. He that getteth wisdom loveth his own soul. He that keepeth understanding shall find good. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall perish. And I know I just read that. A false witness shall not be punished. So what I'm finding in Proverbs, there's a lot of repetition. Okay? Good advice, but repeated. Verse 10. Delight is not seemly for a fool, much less for a servant to have rule over princes. The discretion of a man deferreth his anger, and it is his glory to pass over a transgression. The king's wrath is as the roaring of a lion, but his favor is as dew upon the grass. I'll say this. I remember something as I read that verse. Delight is not seemly for a fool, much less for a servant to have rule over princes. I know that certain celebrations like I don't know if Mardi Gras, I think that, yeah, that's one of the things. And some of these carnival celebrations that have originated in different parts of the world, majorly in places where you have a large population of Black people who, of course, we know we're of their slave ancestry. Our ancestors were slaves. There is that celebration of carnival. A lot in the West Indies, where I'm from, in the Caribbean, there's a lot of it. Here in the US, it's in New Orleans, that celebration where they dress up and parade through the streets. Well, it's just, and in my own country where I'm from, Trinidad, they have it. And what it really originated from my knowledge of some of those history of slave times, was when masters switched a day. They took one day and switched over, and the slaves pretended to be masters while the masters pretended to be under the jurisdiction of the slaves. Of course, it was all folly and foolishness, and that's where carnival originated from. Okay, dressing up and parading as God knows what in the streets, and having mastery over their masters. And as I read that, it is and it's not good for a servant to have rule over princes. I mean, the slave masters weren't princes, but you know, they were their servants. So, but anyway, that was just a little bit of history that I remembered. Okay, verse 12. The king's wrath is as a roaring lion, but his favor is as dew upon the grass. A foolish son is the calamity of his father, and the contentions of a wife are a continual dropping. And I would say this, they say wife, but it's not always the woman who makes contention. Okay, I'm going to go gender specific here. There is not just wife. I guess Solomon found it for him. He was, a man was writing it, so he would put wife. Here I would put spouse, because you can find some very contentious men as well. Is as a continual dropping. And you know, have you ever lay in your bed and heard water dripping from your pipe? Somehow in the nighttime, everything sounds louder, and that thing just bothers you. In the daytime, you won't even hear it, although it's happening. But in the nighttime, that drip, drip, drip just gets to you. They say that's how contention is, okay? Verse 14, house and riches are the inheritance of fathers, and a prudent wife is from the Lord. Slothfulness casteth into a deep sleep, and an idle soul shall suffer hunger. He that keepeth the commandment keepeth his own soul, but he that despiseth his ways shall die. He that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto the Lord, and that which he hath given will he pay him again. Chasten thy son while there is hope, and let not thy soul spare for his crying. And I tell you, I remember my children and I were contending where this punishment, this physical punishment derived from, and they think it's from slavery days, how masters treated their slaves and slaves learned that behavior. But long before that, Solomon wrote it here. I guess the rod was not something that was spared back in biblical times either. So there. Okay, verse 19, a man of great wrath shall suffer punishment, for if thou deliver him, yet thou must do it again. Hear counsel and receive instruction, that thou mayest be wise in thy latter end. There are many devices in a man's heart, nevertheless the counsel of the Lord, that shall stand. The desire of a man is his kindness, and a poor man is better than a liar. And I tell you, when you meet somebody who lies, it's like you don't even want to be around them, because it's like nothing they say is worth anything. You don't even want to hear them speak, because it's all lies in your heart and mind, because you've proven it so many times that they lie. You don't want to hear them speak at all. Verse 23, the fear of the Lord tendeth to life, and he that hath it shall abide satisfied. He shall not be visited with evil. A slothful man hideth his hand in his bosom, and will not so much as bring it to his mouth again. Verse 25, smite a scorner, and the simple will beware, and reprove one that hath understanding, and he will understand knowledge. He that wasteth his father, and chaseth away his mother, is a son that causeth shame, and bringeth reproach. I pray we never do that, because God said, honor your parents. There is a blessing in it. I have seen it. Verse 27, cease, my son, to hear the instruction that causeth to err from the words of knowledge. An ungodly witness scorneth judgment, and the mouth of the wicked devoureth iniquity. Judgments are prepared for scorners, and stripes for the backs of fools. Wow. Excuse me. That's it for Proverbs 19. I will not read Proverbs 20 because, yes, it's about as long as this one. Thank you all once again for listening. Good words, good advice, sound advice. Things for us to ponder as we live on in this world. Thank you again for listening. Remember, faith comes when we hear God's words. So keep your ears open. Until, take care.